Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons, as well as the wonderful people over at Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. So what's the deal with Materiactors? Well, they're a series of level 3 dragon-type monsters that have a particular affinity for level 3 normal monsters, despite not having any to call their own. This is all in service of forming the overlay network, at which point the archetype starts to show a shift in its design philosophy. Our extra deck monsters and our spell and trap cards almost entirely drop mentions of normal monsters, instead focusing on adding Xyz material back to our hand from underneath our Materiactor Xyz Monsters, effectively setting you up to do all of those summons again later. A kind of loop that seems pretty appropriate considering all the gigantic serpents that seem very keen on eating their own tails that make up the theme's monsters. Let's kick things off with Materiactor Xyz, a water monster with 1500 attack and defense. You can reveal this card in your hand and discard any other card to add a level 3 normal monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except the discarded card. Then, you can special summon this card in defense position. And as a quick effect, you can discard this card, then target a rank 3 Xyz monster that you control, and it gains 1500 attack until the end of this turn. Now, the summon effect is a hard once per turn, but the collude effect is not. So the more Xyz that you have in hand, the bigger you can make your rank 3s out of nowhere. And because we know of the proclivity of our cards to go from Xyz material back to the hand, we have ourselves a pair of effects that would otherwise clash with each other now coming together in perfect harmony. But of course, the most important effect is that first one, getting you a free monster for basically nothing, filtering a card in your hand for a normal monster that can hit the board and make a rank 3, and with no lingering restrictions to boot, so you can get the ball rolling on a lot of plays with this little crocodile. Which is another thematic inclusion, as Xyz seems to be in the middle of one of their little death rolls. Spoilers, if you haven't seen a crocodile's death roll, you're missing out, go give it a watch. Materiactor Xyz is a dark monster with 1000 attack and defense, and it allows you to discard a card to special summon a level 3 normal monster from your hand or deck. Or if you discarded a normal monster to activate this effect, you can special summon a Materiactor monster instead. But while on the field, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except Xyz Monsters. As the first Materiactor monster to be printed, this was probably the funniest effect to have available, cause the only Materiactor monster you could summon was itself. But now we have a couple extra targets to lean on, the next of which isn't too bad. But in lieu of having a normal monster to discard, you can summon out a normal monster to set up the rank 3 play. Now, the bad news is that Xyz keeps you from making anything other than Xyz monsters while on the field, but much like the Sword Soul Synchro lock coming from your tokens, it's cleared the second you get Xyz off the field, so it doesn't have any long-term implications. Meaning it's going to get better and better as more Materiactor support comes out, which hopefully will take less time than the last cycle, as it can be basically every other Materiactor in the game. So Xyz is great for handling all kinds of gigs. Materiactor Xyz is a fire monster with 0 attack and defense that you can special summon from your hand if you control a Materiactor card. And if this card is normal summoned, special summoned, or flipped face up, you can add a Materiactor card from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. Then you can take a level 3 normal monster from your grave and either add it to your hand or special summon it. This makes for a great summon off of Xyz's effect. Xyz grabs you any Materiactor card, then gets you back the normal monster that you discarded for Xyz's effect. And while that's the most optimal way to deploy this monster, it just being in the hand is more than enough to pair with another Materiactor for that free summon from hand. And thankfully, you don't even have to have a target in grave to get that search, so no matter if your grave is set up or not, you've got a little Stratos to help you through your play lines. It's also the most visually distinct of our Materiactors so far. I mean, at least Xyz is a reptile, which is pretty scaly. That's a little dragon-like. But Xyz, that's just straight up a bird. Anyone else feel like those feathers look a little too much like maple leaves? I know this was released in the fall, but I think that's a bit too on the nose here, designers. Alright, that does it for our main deck monsters. Now it's time for the Xyz. Materiactor Xyz is a water monster with 2000 attack and defense, requiring 2 or more level 3 monsters as material. You can detach a material from this card to either special summon a Materiactor monster from your deck, or add a Materiactor spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. If your opponent normal or special summons any number of monsters except during the damage step, you can add up to 2 cards attached to this card to your hand, including a Materiactor card. Then, if you have a normal monster in your graveyard, you can return a card on the field to the hand. This is our newer Xyz, and it's a welcome sight. Any 2 level 3s gets you access to a Materiactor card and has a pretty wild retaliatory effect. As an example, if you use Gigadra to summon out Zeptowing, using its effect to revive a normal monster, you can summon a 3 material Exiguard using all of them. You detach the normal monster to grab a Materiactor card, and when your opponent summons, you get those Materiactor monsters back into your hand, and because that normal monster should still be in the graveyard, you've got a non-targeting bounce to boot. And even if you aren't able to make it with 3 materials, it's still a way to turn any 2 level 3s into Exiguard so you can grab your on-theme cards. Nothing's worse than being stuck with all your non-engine with no way to your prime game plan, so having a way to get into it helps you to avoid any existential crises. Materiactor Gigaboros is a dark monster with 500 attack and defense, requiring 2 or more level 3 monsters as material. It gains 500 attack and defense for each card in your hand, and you can detach a material from this card to attach a Materiactor monster from your deck to this card as material. And during your opponent's main or battle phase, as a quick effect, you can add a card attached to this card to your hand, which means Gigaboros actually gets stronger when doing this, something I wouldn't have expected when an Xyz monster loses material. It's kinda like a Slifer the Sky Dragon situation, but with a lot less potency. The detach effect is interesting, essentially setting up your other Materiactors underneath this card so you can get them bounced back to your hand, but remember, it only puts other Materiactor monsters underneath it as material. You're sadly unable to swap out any of the material for a Materiactor spell or trap card. However, if you do somehow get any spell or trap card under this, you can totally pop those back into your hand during your opponent's turn, and we have a pretty fun way of doing that coming up in just a bit. Though the name is a bit misleading here. This card doesn't do anything that red or white cards usually do, so how is this a Boros card again? Alright, that covers our monsters, now it's time for the spells and traps. Materiactor Annulus is a normal spell card that detaches an Xyz material from a monster you control, and then if the detached material was sent to your grave, you can set that card to your field. This is kind of like an accelerated Gigaboros effect, putting the card directly onto the field instead of into its owner's hand, though seems to be aimed more towards the spells and traps that we'll be getting. Set monsters and trap cards will largely still be on a turn delay, but any non-quick play spell card that you set is going to be available immediately. This can lead to some pretty funny interactions, including if you suck up an opponent's card as material, because it sets the detached card to your field, giving you a roundabout way to steal your opponent's cards. And the best part is, it's not archetype locked. You could run this in any Xyz deck, so if you're running Paleozoic, you can get your trap cards back into rotation immediately, instead of having to wait to revive them as monsters later. Now, originally, this segment was about Time Thief Redoer taking your opponent's cards, but sadly, you only get to set the card to the field if it was sent to your graveyard, not any graveyard. You know, the designers had an opportunity to let this card be really funny, but instead, they got all anal-less about it. Materiactor Meltdown is a continuous spell card that, during your main phase, lets you excavate the top 6 cards of your deck, and you can add an excavated Materiactor card of those to your hand. Also place the rest on the top of your deck in any order. Then, you can add a card attached to a rank 3 Xyz monster you control to the hand. And if your Xyz monster's effect is activated, you can attach the top card of your deck to a Materiactor Xyz monster that you control. Now that is pretty nutty. Excavate 6 is frankly an absurd number, and it doesn't even shuffle those cards. So not only do you know what to expect for the next few draws, you can even set them up to be the best they can be when it comes to your draws, or attaching as material, even if your opponent does get a bit of a peek. The second effect, though, is stupendous. First up, even though you've determined the top 5 cards of your deck after excavating, Gigaboros' detach effect to swap one of its material for a Materiactor monster effectively resets the top of your deck if those excavates didn't look too hot. And the ability that adds the material to your hand will also ensure that Gigaboros continues to have a card to give you, because it'll be replaced by the top card of your deck. As for our other Xyz, Exiguard's search effect will also replace its material, meaning you can make it with only 2 materials and still have the amount necessary to trigger the bounce. And because of the excavate, you can even set up which cards get absorbed underneath your Xyz monsters, an effect that I should point out is not once per turn. Only the excavate is. The more Xyz monster effects that you activate in general, the more materials you can put under your Materiactors. Meltdown is easily the best card you can search off of Zeptowing to help ensure you have access to all the cards and materials you can ask for. It is starting to feel kind of samey though, with every card basically searching you every other card in the theme, but I'm not about to look a Gift Ouroboros in the mouth-mounted tail eye. And you shouldn't either. Materiactor Critical is a counter trap card that can be activated when a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated. Add one of your cards attached to a Materiactor Xyz monster you control to the hand, and if you do, negate the activation, then apply this effect based on the added card's type. If you added a monster, you place a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you added a spell card, all Materiactor Xyz monsters you currently control gain 1000 attack, and if a trap card was added, you can set the added card. That's right folks, we have a searchable Omni-Negate that can actually go even on card economy. Adding back a monster is clearly meant to be the wrong choice here, reinforcing the idea that you want to be putting non-monsters underneath your Materiactors, despite having very few ways of doing that right now. But even if you add a monster, you aren't much worse off than most counter traps will leave you. It'll still be a -1. But by adding a spell card, not only do you go even on card economy, all of your boss monsters become incredibly swole. Even getting Gigaboros to a 1500 base has big implications with its own attack gain effect, and adding a trap card gives you more interaction for later. I'm imagining a future where Materiactors are attaching cards from the grave so you can keep looping this card over and over again, but even if we don't get to that point, I'd still say this card is critical to your success. Alright, so that's all the Materiactor cards that we have so far, but what do we do with them? Well, our main goal is to output as many of our boss monsters as soon as we can so we can utilize their unique effects, shoring up our hand advantage while picking apart our opponent's field. To do this, we'll have to keep in mind good level 3 extenders, as well as normal monsters to utilize our main deck monster effects on. And because our Xyz roster is made up of basically 2 monsters, we might want to see if there are any other good rank 3 monsters out there that will fit good with our archetype. So what can we play to help them out? First up, let's talk about those normal monsters, and I can't think of a better one to fit the theme than Hunter Dragon. The stats of the card don't super matter for us, but on the off chance we have to keep it on the board to do some battling, it having a good attack stat is a plus. And it makes for a great send off of Dragon Shrine, getting Hunter into the grave, as well as any of our Materiactor main deck monsters for any revival shenanigans we might play. But if strength is something you're looking for, we can't ignore the most powerful level 3 normal monster in the game. That's right, I'm talking about Jerry Beans Man. Not only is it sporting an extra 50 attack, we've got access to a little plant engine here. Jerry is an earth monster, which means it gives us access to Melee of the Trees, an Xyz monster that I have been waiting to see play in an actual deck ever since I laid eyes on it. Not even actual plant decks can utilize this card well, because it turns out that level 3 Earths are not exactly in demand. That being said, what the heck does it even accomplish for us? I don't know, maybe you get back Lone Fire Blossom or another big plant. I don't care. The whole point is that Melee is finally usable in something. As for cards that help us get to those normal monsters, Painful Decision not only gets one into your hand, but into the graveyard as well, helping with Zeptowing's effect, while Unexpected Die also helps by putting those monsters directly onto the field for your Xyz summons. And if your hand is just flooded with normal monsters, you might want to consider playing Link Spider, as you can turn one normal monster into it, letting you summon another one of them onto the field to hopefully get you into a nifty Link too. As for effect level 3 extenders, Speedroid Terratop is currently at 3, giving us a good and easy way to get into Exiguard and getting our Materiactors onto the board. Tour Guide is also an option if you want to lean into some Fiends, and because the effect triggers on normal summon, it's one of the best cards you can recycle with Gigaboros, giving you a good effect you can utilize every turn to make a fresh rank 3. Psychic Wii Leader and Tracker are also extenders that I love to see, since you can drop them from your hand if you have any other level 3 monster on the board. And that opens up the usage of Emergency Teleport, one of the strongest spell cards in the game. And as long as you're using that, well, you could play Chosen by the World Chalice, which can lead to some World Legacy synergies, and look, it just spirals out of control immediately from this point. For instance, you can also use Emergency Teleport to bring in the Punk engine. All their playstarters are level 3 psychics, and while that theme is known more for its fusion and synchro capabilities, nothing's stopping you from just overlaying with them. Or you could also fusion and synchro summon with them. Like we said, the only lock here is on Gigadraw, and that doesn't even last for the turn. Exiguard and Gigaboros are pretty cool, but we have access to all rank 3 Xyz monsters, so are there any others that catch our fancy? Well, Ashura King's become a big favorite of mine recently. Getting to 3 Xyz material with this deck is trivial, and having a monster with an unrestricted multi-attack, attack power boost, and a monster effect negate covers a lot of ground. Alucard, as a Ghost Trick Xyz, is an on-ramp to Utopic Draco Future, another strong monster negate, and as its base form, gets you a little extra removal if your opponent has any set cards. Goblin Biker Big Gabonga is a pretty good pick here because it bridges us into the Goblin Biker archetype, another huge Xyz deck, grabbing us a goblin monster and can absorb our opponent's monsters when a material from an Xyz monster is detached. Gold Pride is also really accessible because of Chariot Carry, which in turn gets you better luck next time, which then also feeds into the whole Gold Pride theme. And if we're talking about Xyz, we can't forget about Xyz Armor Torpedo, giving us access to the whole armored Xyz line. Full Armor Dark Knight Lancer is a house of a card. As for a silly tech pick, there's one crossover that has a lot of potential when normal monsters are involved. Magic Key Maftia. A Clavicus may not be level 3, but we do play a wide variety of level 3 normal monsters, and those can cover the attributes we need to enable our Magic Key effects as best we can, and we get a little extra value after summoning out one of our normals with our Materiactors, enabling the usage of material both for fusion and ritual summoning from the deck. And that's all I've got to say about Materiactors. The deck certainly has an interesting take on the concept of the advantage loop, one that I'm pretty fond of. While the interaction between Xyz material and recycling has been dabbled with, I feel like it's never been as present as it is here, and I hope we'll see an update next core set to really flesh things out. As a duelist, I'm hyped. As a parent, I'm furious. For the last time, kiddos, would you get your tail out of your mouth? You're gonna get an infection! But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Materiactors made of some real competitive material, or do they just cause disgusted reactions? And which one's your favorite? Me? I think Exorept is cute in a very derpy way, despite all the pulsating flesh and claws and all that. Let me know your favorites down below, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like this video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and Natiel Lee Alexander, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Owexotoa Hime, Anansi Dragon, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Happy Majin, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Mana Charge, Marion James E. Picata, Megacombi is entering the Chrysalis, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rank 10 Trains, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, The Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Animasta, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Buelcifer, Fish, Beluga Masta, Blitzwolf, Caesar M, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper, R.I.P., Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat, the true Draco Slayer, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, Lobomaru 02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, Mick Spoofy, Mike, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Pokemon, Rainer Leong, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuka Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to learn about another level 3 strategy that just loves to Xyz summon, check out this video where I cover Burning Abyss. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. And I can't think of a better one to fit the theme with than Hunter Dragon. I wrote Hunter Dragon, which was that's not what the card is, but you know, maybe we got some support later on down the line for Hunters. Filtering a card in your hand for a normal monster that can hit the board and have Moby jump on the desk because, you know, he just has no he doesn't care. He has no sense for the work that we do here at the Orbital platform. Okay.